Hello, anyone who is not in our hybrid Jewish studies class on May 2nd. Here is the class. You can email me the answers. So, first of all, we began class by looking at the following essay by Rabbi Nathan Cardoza from the Times of Israel in 2015. What I'd like you to do is there are 7 parts of this essay. Please give me one sentence summary of each of the paragraphs. So that's questions 1 through 7. Yeah, all right. And now we're kind of moving on. So, so my question is, what if we actually change the word rebel for rasha? So rasha means wicked, and the main place we know this term rasha is actually from the Passover Haggadah, and we're going to kind of do a deep dive into that into that term and into the Haggadah in a moment. But first, we're going to say the word rasha means wicked. So, what would this text still feel true? Why or why not? So let's just read it together. One of the great tasks of Jewish education is to deliberately create an atmosphere of wickedness among its students. Wickedness, after all, is the great emancipator. We owe nearly all of our knowledge and achievements not to those who agree, but to those who were wicked. If this is true, if this is the virtue that it is this virtue that brought Judaism into existence. Abraham was the first to be wicked, destroying idols, and he was followed by his children, by Moses, by the prophets, and finally by the Jewish people. So, does this question number 8, does this paragraph ring true by changing the word Rasha, rebel for Rasha? Yes or no, and why? And then question number 9 is, can you tell me the relationship between the rebel and the Rasha, the rebel and the one who is wicked? How do those terms kind of agree, disagree, encompass, not encompass, overlap with one another? That's question number 9. So here we go. We're moving right now into our Passover Seder. And what is the goal of the Passover Seder? The goal of the Passover Seder is to explain the story of Yetziat Mitzrayim, of leaving Egypt. And this comes from the Mishnah itself, and it actually says, Arba Banim Dibra Torah. The Torah speaks about 4 sons or 4 children. One of them is a Chacham, one of them is a Rasha, one of them is Tam, and one of them is She'eno Yodea Lishol. Chacham means wise, Rasha means wicked, Tam means simple or maybe pure. She'eno Yodea Lishol means doesn't know how to ask. So the Torah is saying that actually there are 4 times when the Torah speaks about when the Torah speaks. The Torah speaks about what? The Torah speaks about a child. And what is that child doing? That child is asking a question, or that child is eliciting an answer from a parent. And the Torah, for some reason, decides that because there are 4 types of conversations that happen between child and parent, that these 4 types of conversations are indicating 4 different types of people. By the way, what for question number 10? What could, I mean, the Mishnah is deciding and making an assumption that if there are 4 conversations happening, there are 4 different children that are being talked about, or these conversations are happening between a parent and 4 different children. What else could the Torah have said to justify the fact that there are 4 different conversations? Or what else could the rabbis have learned by the fact that there are 4 different conversations? That's question number 10. Okay. So basically what is happening is, we're not going to look at that right now, but so the Torah speaks about, that means that if I open the Torah, I'm going to find in that Torah 4 different conversations between a child and his or her parents about leaving Egypt. Conversation 1, 2, 3, 4, happening in different parts of the Torah. And the rabbis decide that this means that each conversation is talking about a different kind of child reacting to a parent, right? Um, and it's interesting that it could have gone the other way. It could have said, actually, this is the same child reacting to different kinds of parents, okay? So what I'd like to do is I'm going to now show you the 4 different conversations that we learn about, the interactions between a child and his or her parent. And what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to tell me which one you think this is. Is this the wicked child talking? Is this the innocent child talking? Is this the Tom child talking? Is this the Rasha talking, the wicked? Is this the Chacham talking? Is this the She'eno Yodea Lishol? So here we go. Here is number 1. The child is saying, and it will. What your child says to you, what is this work or task or ritual act to or for you? Okay, I'm just translating this. La means either to or for. Avodah means something like, what is this work? What is this ritual? What is this task that you're doing? Okay, who do we think this is? Oh, and first of all, and the answer is this is the answer the child is saying. The parent is listening to this and they're saying, this is the Passover sacrifice to the God that passed over the homes of the children of Israel in Egypt when he killed the Egyptians but saved our houses. So this question and answer is dealing with which child? The Rasha, the Chacham, the Tam, or the She'eno Yodea Lishol. So for question number 12, tell me, what is the child we're dealing with? And question number 13 is, why do you think that? Okay. Number 2, there's no question offered in the Torah, in Torah and Shemot for this for the prompt for the response from the parent. So the parent doesn't even get a question, and the parent is saying, because of the food stuff on this Seder plate that's before me, God did for me when I was leaving from Egypt. So this question and answer is dealing with which child? The Chacham, the wise one, the Rasha, the wicked one, the Tom one, simple one, or the She'eno Yodea Lishol? Which one is this one? And that's question number 14. And then why explains question number 15. Okay, let's go to the next one. When your child asks you tomorrow saying, what is this? That's what they're asking. What is this? And you'll answer to him, it was with a mighty hand that God brought us out of Egypt, the house of bondage. When Pharaoh stubbornly refused to let us go, God slew every firstborn of both man and beast. Therefore, I sacrifice to God every first male, I sacrifice to God every first male issue of the womb, but I purchase back every firstborn among my sons. Okay, so we can talk about the answer later on, but who is the questioner here? Is it the Chacham? Is it the Rasha? Is it the Tam, the simple child, or is it She'eno the Yudea Lishol, the one who doesn't even know how to ask? That's question number 16. And 17 is, please justify or explain why. Next one. When your child asks you tomorrow saying, what are the decrees, laws, and rules that God commands you? And then you will say to your children, we were slaves to Pharaoh in Egypt, and the Lord freed us from Egypt with a mighty hand. God brought before our eyes marvelous instructive signs in Egypt against Pharaoh and all his household. And he freed from there so that he might take us and give us the land that he has promised as a promise to our fathers. Then God commanded us to observe all these laws, to fear God for our everlasting good and for our survival, as is now the case. It will be therefore to our merit before God to observe faithfully the whole instruction as he has commanded us. This is talking about which child, and that's 18, and 19 is why. All right. So now I just want to go back. So that's kind of what we got to in class, but we also talked a little bit about a couple other things. Now, first of all, just so you know, we were not quite sure in class. We had a debate whether this is actually the wise child or is it the simple child, or what here. We weren't quite sure. We were really certain that because there's no question here, this has to be the She'eno Yodea Lishol, the one who doesn't even know how to ask. Right? We're responding to them. Um, And this one right here, when they're saying mazot, what is this? We felt like that is probably a very simple question and a kind of a pretty simple answer as well. I think we weren't quite, we thought this was a simple answer as well, so maybe this could be the simple child. Then this one right here, we were like, oh, this child is asking about what are the rules, what are the edot, what are the chukim mishpatim, um, and we were pretty certain that was probably the wise child. Um, Interestingly enough, right, so one of the questions that we asked in class were, why do you think there are three different words? I think Aaron Zhu asked the question, why are there three different words for kind of the same thing, rules and rules and rules? Why would the wise child be asking about three different types of rules in three different types of ways? That's my question number 20. And then we were talking about in class that like the person who would be asking what are all these rules, what basically they want, like if they were to go into school and go to Mrs. Blum and basically say, what are the rules of the school, what do we expect, give me an example in question number 21 of one rule that you would expect to have. All right, or maybe tell two rules, 21 and 22 is this is rule number 2. Now, what I'd like you to do is read the answer that the parents give to this wise child who's asking about rules, and tell me, are the rules that you think Miss Blum would give, are those types of rules offered as an answer, yes or no? And that's question number 24. And what we found in class so interesting was that actually the child is asking for one thing, the parent is offering something else. The child is saying, "Give me this," and the parent is giving them something and a lot of something, but certainly not rules and laws and decrees. Maybe a general idea of, "Hey, just follow God's law and everything will be okay." But that doesn't seem to be what this child actually wants. And so in class, we kind of asked the question, these labels, if we go back to the Mishnah, right, right, the rabbis are labeling our children, are labeling three conversations and say, oh, this is a Rasha who's talking. Oh, this is a Chacham that's talking. Oh, this is a She'eno Yodea Lisho that's talking. This is a Tam that's talking. And my question is, who is making that decision? Who is placing the label on who this child is? Is it the parent or is it the child themselves? That's question number 24. And I asked this question because I want us to look back for a second and ask that same question about the Ben Sorel Moreh. Who was it that was making the determination of the label that a child was Ben Sorel Moreh? Was it the child or was it the parent? Right, and I think you'll agree in question right, and that's question number 25, child or parent. That may be question number 24 as well. But you would agree that it was the parent who was labeling the child. And so, what does that mean when we know that there's something called a rasha, but also we know that it's the parent who's looking at that child and saying, "You are the rasha." And I want you to see that if we look at these answers, it was very clear that this was the She'eno Yodea Lishol. It's probably pretty clear that this one who's asking for the rules and decrees is the wise one. But it's not so clear when we read what's here, meaning what is this work, task, ritual, act to or for you? Like if you heard that from someone, what are you doing basically? What is all this on the table? How would you label that person? And that's question number 26. I might label that person inquisitive, curious, but I wouldn't know if necessarily label that person a rasha, a wicked. And so this is why I think we need to look a little bit further. Um, right? I mean, this one right here, mazot, right? We would like, what is this, right? Not even able to indicate certain parts of what's happening. Just kind of like, what's going on, right? Whereas this guy's saying, tell me, like, what is this that you're doing tonight? Why are you doing it tonight? Why? I see what you're doing, but why? What? Right? It's very interesting. So we ended class basically asking that question of who is determining whether or who is doing the labeling. And just because I label someone, meaning I think I know who my child is that correct? Meaning, every time a parent says, "This is what my child is," um, are they correct, or are they making a mistake? All right, so that's it for today. You can email me your 26 answers.